in the last decade of earthquakes globally, and not only an increase in the number of earthquakes, but also in the intensities. There have been more 7+ and 8+ quakes per year than there used to be in a decade. And so that's happening all over. And quite honestly, I'd be very concerned right now about the west coast of North America, anywhere from Alaska to Southern California, but particularly I would look at the Los Angeles basin and the Seattle area. Those two areas, in my opinion, are the most volatile at the moment. And what people also don't realize is that the areas around Charleston, South Carolina, and in Boston are on major fault lines. And if you check the USGS.gov maps, you will see every now and then occur in those areas as well, which are not very much publicized, but they may lead to something significant. In 1886, in South Carolina, that was felt all the way north to New York. So that's going to happen again, and it's starting to move even recently. So people need to be aware of what's underneath them as well as what's around them.
Absolutely, and to also pay attention to where the nuclear power plants are. It doesn't take another Fukushima to realize that if you're living in an area that could be affected by earthquakes, and you're living in an area where there's a nuclear reactor, or you're downwind from a nuclear reactor, you could probably end up facing some serious problems if you're not prepared to evacuate.
That's correct, and I'm glad you brought up that nuclear information, because just earlier I gave you kind of a little formula for the bath with the sea salt and the baking soda and the food-grade hydrogen peroxide. If you add vinegar to that mix, it will pull out radiation, and if you're on chemotherapy or anything like that, it will pull all of that out of the body if you take that on a daily basis. So there are ways to remove the radiation that may fall from the atmosphere.
Man, wow, that's very good to know, especially with all that's going on with the meltdowns and them not really telling us or really even know, how bad this the fallout really has been. And we actually had a few questions come in while we're talking about this. One was, what do you think about Don Croft's work?
Well, I always say that I don't comment on the work of other people. If they want to give me a topic and ask me what I think of a topic, I can comment on that, but I don't like to comment on the works of others.
Yeah, this has to do with the parasites and removing parasites in the body. So I don't know if maybe with some kind of energetic dealio. Just maybe on the principles on that. I'll speak to the principles of removing parasites physically, since we're on the subject of body health. Okay,
I'll tell you what we do. When we deal with situations of even bacteria, viruses, parasites, any kind of a little creature in your body that shouldn't be there, first thing is we do the sea salt baths. We also do chelation therapy. We do colonics, and we also use a product called Agricept, which is an organic product that will kill anything that shouldn't be in your body. And we also like to use the MMS product that also will kill things in the body that don't belong there. So that's what we like to use. I also use far infrared sauna that will purify the body, ionic foot baths, rice machine treatments. These are the kinds of things that we use here when we are detoxifying or suggesting healing techniques to others.
Very cool. Very cool. And one of the other questions that we had, because as we know, this does usually cascade down to the body when we're talking about some of the more dirty aspects of the astral, shall we say. And there was a question during that time too about what one can do to aid themselves in kind of ridding any unwanted karma or anything, or just whatever from that astral layer.
Very simple. In my books and my work, I talk about using the Golden Altar Release work, growing up the child within, deprogramming techniques, oversoul communication. I have DNA opening exercises. All of these will eliminate the mind patterns that perpetuate the negative cycles over and over. But on a daily basis, of course, I always talk about balancing the T-bar, using ultimate violet protection techniques, etc., which will block any further attachments or contaminations of your energy field from external sources.
Very cool.
Very cool. Speaking of external sources, we did have a question earlier in the chat room. I've been trying to catch them all as they fly by here. This question comes from Ed. Stewart, do you know if the government uses hyperspace or astrals to physically control people in terms of physical possession or mind possession?
Astral. Yeah, as far as possession, let's say it's more mind control than possession. Yes, I should clarify. There are occasions where they can actually capture a demonic entity electromagnetically and force it into a physical body. Yes, they can do that. But of course, I'll go back and say, if you do your mind work and your protection techniques, etc., then they cannot do that to you. People who, let's say, are abusing narcotics or alcohol or leave their chakra system and their auric field open so that they can be used in such a manner, and especially they use these techniques in sexual magic ritual, which is very common programming technique in the government. And so all of these things I write about in my True Reality of Sexuality book, 13 Cube, my DVDs, all talk about how to block and remove any of these connections or attachments to the body. I have also recently been teaching about white-winged lion frequency, white-winged dragon, very powerful energies that really will block any of these things. The government does not use hyperspace to or control others. The energy is the God mind level. Cannot happen. They only can go up to the mid to upper astral. In fact, when I was deprogramming years ago and I was on the phone with people who were helping me deprogram, they would cut into the phone because I would be staying in a violet color, which they could not penetrate, and they would say, go to royal blue or go to brown, or they'd tell me to go to a lower color so they could access me. You know, and so of course the command that they gave over the phone would trigger me, but I had to get to a point where I was of a frame of mind where no matter what I heard or saw, I would stay in the violet or silver or gold or higher level colors that they could not penetrate and access. So I guess to answer Ed's question, if you stay in violet or higher, you'll be in good shape. They will not be able to penetrate that.
Great.
Okay, good to know. Just going to repost that answer in the chat room for those who are kind of away from their keyboards there.
Yeah. Another question that we had too was kind of switching gears a little bit here back to we're talking extraterrestrial. Do you see any kind of disclosure actually happening soon?
Well, it's kind of in process right now, but of course it's not the disclosure I would like to see. It's not going to be the truth. It's going to be to believe about history and aliens and that kind of a thing. As I mentioned, they are in process now of a staged alien invasion where they will manufacture an alien attack from space. And we will all have to join together under a global government in order to fight this attack. And then a savior race will appear. The attackers, and of course, they will identify themselves as reptilians, and they will also say they are our ancient ancestors who created humanity. So in fact, they're related to us. And then they will have the staged second coming of Christ. where he will proclaim the New World Order as his new holy empire. And of course, the DNA from that body will match identically to the Shroud of Turin. So who could deny that it is him? And they have the whole thing wrapped up in a nice, neat little package. The information that they give you will corroborate what's in the New Testament and Book of Revelation. And that's why we're seeing almost on a weekly basis artifacts being revealed, sites being uncovered that corroborate biblical passages. It's just about every week on the news. And it's all leading up to the staged second coming, the staged alien invasion, and the global government and New World Order. It's all geared for people to accept it because, they're going to give you physical proof that here everything we're telling you is true. But unfortunately, it's not true completely. It's skewered in a way so that public will accept the totalitarian overlords. That's
very interesting. And when you mentioned the false alien invasion as maybe part of Project Bluebeam, one of the key elements of that I noticed is that the holographic technology, the information that we're given, I guess, in our mainstream curriculum, as far as our education is concerned, I always had a theory when I was reading David Icke's work about who these reptilians really are, and I thought, we know that there were bipedal reptilians on the Earth 65 million years ago. Is it possible that these reptilians were in fact from the Earth? That maybe they seeded the Earth, they lived here for a while, and they decided that they were going to let humanity just develop, and they'll kind of steer that, go their own way, and then come back once we're at the level that they want us to be. That perhaps maybe that they are coming back, and one of the problems, I guess, in proving that or disproving it is to see a pyramid that has lasted maybe 65 million years. So.
Well, it's true that the reptilians were the first ones here. That's true. They were the first colonists on this planet, and that's why they consider it to be their planet. And humans came afterwards. But we must remember that the original state of the Earth was totally covered in water. And many things happened to change that artificially and bring land masses to the surface, and that's when the reptilians colonized. So yes, they were the first ones here, and I talk about the wars then between the mammalians and the reptilians that sunk Lemuria, all of that you know about in my book and my works. And so created of the two, the synthesis between human and mammalian. That's what we are. So in effect, we are reptilians. We are mammalians. We're all of the above. We're this new race. That's why it says in Genesis, let us make man in our image. It's all plural. It's the two species combining to be native of the earth. So it's a very complicated situation. Many subsequent to that event had their own agenda that altered things from other worlds and other timelines and dimensions. But to add even more complication to this whole situation, I will even go as far as to say that there may very well alien invasion at some point. We don't know if it will come before or after the staged one. But my personal opinion, know that from the Kuiper Belt is going to come a real invasion. And we don't know when that's going to happen, but it's certainly in progress as well. And I think that is why the Illuminati are scrambling right now to step things up and change things very rapidly. Their timeline has been altered. So it's gotten to be quite a jumble of factors now. Mm-hmm. Forward anymore, it's a big mess, quite honestly.
It is, and maybe to speculate that perhaps maybe what's going on is that we're being told on a different level so to speak, not necessarily in the mainstream media, but in the conspiracy side of things, that if there's Project Bluebeam, it will be